you have a default best friend, and I think, you know, a lot of people would probably have to try and really work hard at a relationship to get something like that. Whereas I know we've just had it from my whole life.
Nothing about being identical is cool, nothing about that is interesting to me in any sort of way, because yeah, just not really relevant to our lives. But yeah, I just suppose good in a way of, yeah, having a close relationship with somebody.
A lot of things go unsaid between us, and it's not because we're hiding anything from each other, it's because we're often on the same plane with things, on the same page, and we can always relate to each other. And it's like, if I need to have a bitch about something, you know, I know Tim's going to have the same opinion pretty much.
The first day of school, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember, pretty sure we would have found each other at lunchtime, you know.
I mean, it was easy to make friends and stuff because like people would remember us. They'd be like, oh, it's Tim and David. They'd know that we were like, look, we were the only twins in like our year level, so it was we were a little bit interesting, I suppose, in like a small country town kind of school.
Like getting invited to parties or things like that, it's important when you're in high school, and because we're brothers, someone would say, yes, your brother can come along, obviously, so that would happen a lot. I think it was a little bit harder for our sister in seeing me and Tim always having a probably a closer bond than we had with her. I don't think we were particularly bad brothers, but we would get up to mischief together. Yeah, and like, you know, those petty childhood kind of fights over the remote and things like that. We'd always kind of find quick allies in each other.
I don't think she's like jealous of our relationship. I think that she'd just be more jealous of the way that we're kind of like treated or able to approach things as being twins.
You know, that we've always got each other to rely on. Like, say we were talking about, you know, going to gigs together and things like that. Well, she doesn't have that. She has to rely on making time with her friends to kind of build up those relationships, whereas we've always got a steady one that we don't have to, you know, work on so much.
People just love to compare twins just because it's like, oh, they're the same, so they kind of find it interesting if they find differences between us, so that immediately like means that we're competing. A lot of gay guys, when they find out that that I have a twin, then they naturally assume that he's gay too, and then when I have to explain to them like that, because a lot of people think they're like, oh, but like he has to be, like you have the same genetics, you should be the same, and but yeah, it's like not really quite that simple.
The kind of theory goes that if twins are genetically identical, then their sexualities should be identical as well, if in fact the causation for same-sex desire is entirely in genes. But so what the science is kind of saying now is that obviously it's not entirely genes, because there are twins with discrepancies in their sexuality up to 50%. So the science is suggesting that in utero there are factors that contribute to it. So i.e. testosterone is a major thing in epigenetics, and turning on and off these genes that may be associated with sexuality. So yeah, there could have been the kind of science is running in that direction. There was the old kind of vein in twin studies that would run and go along the lines that twins would be treated different post-birth, and that's what would define your sexuality. That kind of thing isn't really being studied at the moment, because it's not seen as there's no legs to it. Yeah.
And I mean, like, that's kind of the case with us as well. Like, we weren't treated particularly differently. There's nothing.
Yeah, and yeah, so on a personal, anecdotal level, we don't see. There's no instance where Tim had a traumatic experience that meant that he was going to be a homosexual. Well, till now we've both gone to the same school, we've both studied the same kind of thing, we're at the same university, we have the same kind of jobs. But we do kind of like the idea that we're not following each other's career paths, I suppose. And we do like the idea of being made onto ourselves, and that we are we have our own agency that's independent of each other. So I think you're in this kind of modern world, your career does have a little bit of defining of who you are. So we would like to kind of forge different paths, I suppose. But then again, it's not like we're going to, if we both happen to go the same way, we're not going to like fight it just because I can't say, well, Tim's decided he's going to be an archivalist. I can't do that now. It might happen that.
I suppose we've made like a lot of similar life decisions that have landed us in a similar spot.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be surprising if we ended up with like similar careers.
Yeah.